Welcome to the Knit and Grace podcast. This is episode 22. Hello and welcome back if you're a returning viewer. If you are new here, my name is Mia and I am the maker behind Knit and Grace. And on this little corner of the internet, I like to get up to all things fiber arts related, primarily knitting, but I also do quite a bit of sewing and occasionally some crochet. I tend to put out videos in the traditional project recap style, making journals, and fiber travel vlogs, and I'm passionate about making clothing that fits you no matter what size you are. So if this sounds like something that might interest you, grab a cup of something cozy, click that subscribe button, and let's get into today's video. So today is my first video back, and we are going to do somewhat of a traditional project recap style episode with a twist. So since I have been gone since September, I do have quite a few FOs to show you all, and I do have a few active whips. So for the month of April, what I've decided to do is I'm going to break out all of my FOs that I have completed since my last episode and into two parts. And so you're only going to see FOs. And then starting with May, then we will get into the traditional rhythm of FOs, whips, acquisitions, etc. So for today's episode, I'm actually going to go over all of the finished objects that I finished since the last episode. So from September all the way through January of 2025. So from September 24 to January 2025. And then in 2 weeks, you will see me again for all of the FOs that I have finished in February until the end of March. So it'll still be kind of, only the prior month's projects, if you will. Can you tell it's been a while since I've sat down and had a proper episode to film? So I think that is kind of the majority of the housekeeping. So hopefully you're in for the ride, and we shall see how long it takes me to get through everything. But first and foremost, I wanted to start out the episode with a few thank yous. While I was away, the community has grown to 5,000 subscribers, now over 5,000 subscribers. I can't believe that there are so many of you out there that are willing to and just like to see my videos. So I'm really excited about that and so grateful that you're here to join me on this journey, whatever it might be. As you know, I like to sort of change things up for you all quite a bit. So I want to just thank you all from the bottom of my heart. And I guess we will see where this community continues to grow. I also want to thank a lovely viewer, Miranda, gifted me a pattern from my wish list while I was away. She gifted me the pressed flower shawl, which if you have all seen my flock episode, I bought some yarn while I was in the Pacific Northwest to make that shawl. So I'm really excited to be able to cast it on this year. And as a little preview to our next FO episode, which again will be in 2 weeks, I did do a little bit of practice by knitting up a couple of kerchiefs. So I'm really excited to be able to start on the full size shawl version. And then last and definitely not least, I want to thank all of you that have come up to me at the 2 fiber events that I've been to since I have been on hiatus. So at Rhinebeck and also Nash Yarn Fest, which just happened a couple of weeks ago. Meeting you all in person and getting to say hi and getting to hug and getting to take pictures is, you know, it's what I do this for, right? I know that a lot of the times conversations can feel a little one-sided. I'm talking to the camera, then you're responding to me maybe a couple weeks later, and then I'm responding to you a couple weeks later. And so, yeah, I think that it's really amazing when we can get together as a community and meet each other in person. And, you know, I'm always touched by the stories that you all share with me about how much my content means to you. And yeah, if it weren't for you all here, like, I wouldn't be here because I wouldn't be talking to anyone but myself in front of a camera. So I'm really, really grateful to all of you who have joined me in this community and have been completely understanding of kind of life and where it has taken me, and you know, and stick around even if sometimes I do take a little bit of unplanned breaks. So thank you so much. And I guess I'll just go ahead and get into today's episode, why don't I? So since I am going to be going only over finished objects, and these finished objects span quite a bit of time, I am going to actually let you know when I finish the objects, because usually, you know, when we have these sit downs, you know that I finished the object in the month prior because I put out monthly project recaps. So for today's episode, I'll go over all of the regular things that I normally do, but I'll also tell you when I finish the project. As always, all of my project pages are below. Links to anything that I mention are also below in the description box. And yeah, I am filming this. It seems like there's a little bit more activity outside than there typically is. So if there is any background noise, I apologize for that. I will try to edit it out. And also I do actually have a fan going, so hopefully that's not too bad, because it is quite warm today as I'm filming. So hence why I put on some short sleeves, and I'm wearing my first finished object. So let's go ahead and get right into it. So if you have watched my Nash Yarn Fest video, which was up 2 weeks ago, I was also wearing this vest, and I'm wearing it again because it is the first finished object that I have to share with you all. So I tried to style it a little bit differently, especially since it is a warm day today. And so what am I wearing, you ask? I am wearing the Campus Vest by Amy Sher. And I finished this on September 18th. And as always, if I'm looking down, I'm looking down at my notes. So I finished this on September 18th, 2024. It was a super quick knit. I want to say I knitted up in maybe like 2 weeks or so. I actually featured this as a project I wanted to make in my fall making plans video. So I think that we can be really proud of me that I actually finished a project that I said I would make in the video that had not been started yet. So I think I'm going to pat myself on the back because I actually made a thing. So yes, as you all know, I love all things Amy Sher makes. I'm actually now an affiliate with them as well. So if you do click on the link in the description box, I will get a little bit of a kickback if you purchase anything. But of course, all of, you know, my opinions and the things I share are all my own and just because I love them. But again, I finished this vest on September 18th. and I knit it in my traditional Amy Sure Makes size. So I always make the 4th size. The way that they size their patterns is according to your upper bust. And so the upper bust measurement that corresponds to the 4th size is 40.5 inches. And I knit view A, which is the cropped version of the vest. And also I added in a 2-inch bust dart, which is my traditional. If you've been around here, you've been around the block a couple times, you know, I pretty much do the same thing for all of my Amy Sure Makes patterns. So I always make size D, always a 2-inch bust dart. I did get gauge on the recommended needle size, which is a US 6 or 4mm needle. And I used Drops Cotton Merino in the color dark green. So they have numbers. So the color number is 22, but it corresponds to the color name is dark green. And so again, I made the view A, which is the cropped version, and I will have either already inserted pictures or the pictures will still be here. And for me, I knit the pattern exactly as written, no modifications. And so by no modifications, I mean I knit the pattern exactly as written, I knit the bust dart exactly as written, I knit all the lengths exactly as written. I didn't do any shortening at all. And the reason for that is because I knew that the crop length would actually give me a bit of a high hip length, which is what I was going for. So traditionally, Amy's crop length hits me high hip. Their full length, I typically have to crop by about 2 inches, depending on the pattern. And then if I do want a truly crop pattern, then I usually typically crop another 2 inches. So that's typically how I adjust. But for this particular pattern, I made no modifications. I knitted exactly as written for the 2-inch bust dart, and then that's just giving me a little bit of a longer fit. So it's going to be in between the actual view A and view B that is intended to be. I used 5 balls of the Drops Cotton Merino. However, I will say, like, in my Ravelry project notes, you'll notice that it says like it's 5 point something balls. I found that all of these balls were very heavy. They all had at least 1, if not 1.5 grams more. And so therefore I actually finished my vest in just 5 balls, even though it does say in my project notes that it is a little bit over 5. And I think I did note that in my project notes as well. So I'm really excited about this vest. I wear it all the time. I need to make another one because I literally wear it all the time. I never take it off. I actually have now become obsessed with this green color, which green has not typically been my color in the past. And I'm actually knitting up a different sweater in a similar color. So yeah, I'm really, really loving this. I have not taken it off since I have made it pretty much. It's been both to Rhinebeck and to National Yarn Fest with me. And yeah, I absolutely love it. So getting into the next finished objects, the next object that I finished was my book club cardigan by Sari Nordland, and I finished it on October 10th. Now, one thing that I will say is I will insert a picture for you all to see. However, I have not taken official FO pictures, so I don't have any real full body pictures of me wearing this as kind of on its own. So I'll try to insert some pictures from Rhinebeck as well so you can see what it looks like on me. But here it is. Actually, let me go ahead and button it up so that you can kind of see what I'm working with. Okay, so here it is. Let's see. There we go. Yeah, absolutely love it. Let's see what to say. One thing that I am going to go back and change, and I'm going to do so now that I've shown you all, is I'm actually going to remove the top button, which I think has been a common comment if you knit this from people who knit this, is that the top button is way too high. So I am going to just remove the top button, and I'm just going to keep it as a 3-button cardigan. I got these buttons from Brooklyn General here locally, and I thought that the dark button contrasted really well with this yarn. The yarn that I used is Wool Dreamers Moda in the color 246. Their colors don't have names. And for my cardigan, I knit the 5th size, which corresponds to a finished measurement of 53¼ inches. And I did get gauge on the recommended needle size, which are US 6 or 4mm needles. With regard to my cardigan, I actually made no modifications on the body. So the body, I didn't make any modifications. I knit it exactly as written. And again, this is a situation where I think on Sari, it's a little bit cropped. On me, it's actually kind of in between my high hip and full hip. So, it hits me exactly where I wanted it to hit me. With many Sari patterns, if you made them, she does tend to have a narrow arm side. So going into it, I knew this, and actually especially after watching my friend Kendra of the Balance Gains video where she made it, I took that into consideration. And so for the sleeves, I actually picked up the sleeves for the 6th size. So I didn't make any modification to the arm side. I literally just knit it exactly as it was. But, based on the pattern, you would have picked up less stitches. And so what I just did was I increased my pickup rate so that I could pick up the total number of stitches for the 6th size sleeve. And I worked the decreases based on the instructions for the 6th size. Then other than that, I did shorten my sleeves because I'm a little shorty person. So I knit my sleeves to 13 inches before the ribbing. So I did shorten my sleeves. I'm not sure how much shortening that is, but if you read the pattern, you'll be able to figure it out. So I just I did all my decreases, then I kept knitting for 13 inches, and then I did the ribbing exactly as called for, which this looks like it's probably like a 2.5 inch ribbing. And then the other modification that I made was on the button band. I did 2 modifications. So the first one being that Sari has you pick up with the smaller needles and then knit the button band with the larger needles. And that's just because sometimes when you do a pickup and then you do the double knitting, you can get a little bit of gaping if your tension's not tight enough. I actually just chose to not only pick up with a smaller needle, but also just knit the entire button band with the smaller needle. And I thought that was really good. So it gives me, it didn't give me like too much stretch, especially because I feel like sometimes my cardigans tend to stretch out in the front. Then the other thing that I did was I did change the buttonhole in that she calls for a 3-row buttonhole when you're doing the double knit band, and I did a 5-row buttonhole because I already had my buttons, and sorry, I'm getting fiber in my lips. I already had my buttons so I could try them. So the first one is actually the 3, and it is a little tight for me to get the button through it. And then so the other ones I did a 5-row instead of the 3-row. So other than that, I'm absolutely in love with this. I wear it quite a bit, and especially when I'm working from home, and I'm on camera and I just have a t-shirt on, I'll just throw this on so that I don't look like a scrub on camera. I absolutely love it. I would definitely knit it again. I feel like this is one where it was an interesting knitting experience. I don't think it was interesting, actually. I think it was a very accurate knitting experience. I just thought I was going to go into it and finish it much faster than I would. But especially I think when you're working top-down drop shoulder patterns, the front and the back go like that, right? You're like, okay, we're going. And then you join the body. And it's cabled. And it's moss stitched. There's not a single lick of stuck in it. Yeah. We had a little group chat going for folks that were knitting this as well. in the fall, and I think we were all dying when we got to the body. The sleeves went really fast, as sleeves typically do, but yeah, that body, and also the double knit button band. But of course, if you have knit a double knit button band, you know it's going to be a labor of love. It took me a week to knit it because I like knit it for like 2 days and then my hands got really tired. So I put it down for like 2 days, then I knit it for like another 2 days, and then I put it down for like another day, and then I finished it off. So, you know, the button band alone took me a week to knit. But I'm absolutely in love with the cardigan. Yeah, I will confirm what everyone already knows about this, that the yardage is terribly off. I did go over the yardage for my size, and that's taking into account that I shortened the sleeves, so I technically should have used less yarn. I did technically knit the larger size sleeves, but the difference isn't that big that it should have made up for how much I shortened it. It should not have made up for how much I shortened it in terms of yardage. And then I also knit in a woolen spun yarn, which tends to weigh less. So typically whenever I knit a project that is written for a worsted spun and I use a woolen spun, I'll usually use a lot less, because woolen spun yarn has a lot more air, it takes up a lot more space, you tend to use a lot less of it. And so even with a woolen spun yarn and even with shortening the button band, I did go over, I think maybe by like 100 yards or so. And yeah, so just take that with a grain of salt. I already knew I had way more than enough going into the project, so I wasn't concerned about running out of yarn, because I had bought the yarn for a different project. So I actually still have 2 1/3 balls left of the Moda. But yeah, definitely yardage counts are off for the pattern, as everyone else has kind of already mentioned. So next up, I have a little test knit that I whipped up for Samantha Guerin, and this is the Cold Foam Cap, and I finished this on October 27th, so right after Rhinebeck. And this is what it looks like. I am planning on putting a pom-pom on it, or a pom, I should say. I just haven't gotten around to it. I also have not worn my hair straight in quite some time, so I've not taken finished objects pictures of this. I'm so sorry, Sam. But this is a beautiful ribbed cabled hat. So it has a 2x2 rib, and then the ribbing is then cabled along the way. It has a really deep brim, so you can fold it up. And yeah, I knit mine in Newburgh Fiber Authentic DK, which is their non-superwash base. And this is the color Bookshop Window, which was part of Kim's Autumn Weekend collection that she put out for Rhinebeck Weekend. So I did buy this at Rhinebeck, or I should say at Indie. She was at Indie, but I bought it Rhinebeck Weekend. I knit the 4th size of the hat, which is the largest size, because I have a big old noggin. I actually probably get this on over my hair right now. I probably shouldn't do this, but let's see. I can't get it on over my puff, but you can kind of see how it fits. What to say? I'm sure my hair now looks crazy. Authentic DK, Newburgh Fiber Co., color Bookshop Window, and I made no modifications. So I knit this on the recommended US 6 or 4mm needles. I've been using my US 6s like crazy, and I even had to get an extra set of, like, an extra tip. So like what I did, so I have 2 interchangeable sets, and then I do have stray tips of like either other sets or additional tips of the steps I already have. And so I actually ended up getting 2 sets of US 6 tips for my Knitter's Pride. So one of my interchangeable sets is the Mindful collection, I think, which is the short metal sharp needles, because my other interchangeable set is the Addy Clicks, which are the long 5-inch needles. So I had gotten those, but because it's all Knitter's Pride, you can get like the different tips. So I ended up getting like a pair of the carbons, which I love the carbons for working up my DPNs. And then I got a pair of, I forget what their wooden ones are called. It's like crystal something, color something, prism something, something like that. But I got a pair of the wooden tips. And so I figured that if I was going to get extra tips, I might as well get some wooden ones. So that way, if I'm ever traveling and I want to use wooden tips to avoid getting my needles confiscated, then I can do that. I will say I have never, ever had my needles confiscated. Definitely traveling within the US is not an issue. Sometimes, twice I have been like, my bag has been stopped and they're like, is there something sharp in here that might hurt me? And I'm like, oh, it's my knitting needles. And then they just open it up, have me show them my knitting needles, and they let me go. I also have pre-check and global entries, so I feel like they're a little bit nicer about it. But I have chanced it flying internationally, and again, I know even though I have global entry, it technically doesn't apply in foreign countries, but because I'm like a United Preferred member and I only fly United, especially internationally, I get like special security stickers through United when I go. And so I feel like they're a lot easier on me through security, even though when I'm coming to the US. That said, I am flying to Spain this year, and I have heard horror stories about flying to and from Spain with knitting needles, so I'm not going to risk it. So I am going to take my wooden needle tips. So all that to say, this is why I have multiple tips. I'm knitting on US 6s consistently, and I'm going to be traveling a little bit more internationally, so I'm like, might as well, whenever I need an extra set of tips, just pick up some wooden ones. But yeah, that is a tangent about the Cold Foam Cap by Samantha Guerin. Okay, the next 3 projects that I have to share with you, I don't actually have the projects, so you will have to make do with pictures. But the first one that I have to share with you is the Coloring Book Tea Mini by Amy Schumer. And this is a sample that I knit for them back in the fall, which has now been released. So I had the pleasure of sample knitting for this lovely little child-size version of the Coloring Book Tea that you can also get as an adult size. So I finished this project on November 4th. There was a real election feels going into this project, which is probably why it took me a lot longer to finish it. I knit the 8th size on the recommended needles, the US 6 4mm needles. In this case, I set the gauge. So it's just, I set the gauge, I sent the gauge to Amy. They, what's the word I'm looking for? They graded it. That is the word. They graded the pattern, and then I knit the pattern. The sample is knit in KFO Merino in the colors Plum Rose and Snowflake as the contrast color, both which come from Amy's web shop as well. And no modifications were made to the pattern. It was a sample. I got it out to them in the fall, and it's now been released. And from what I hear, their child, their little kiddo, loves wearing it. So it's really exciting. So next up, the next 3 projects are socks. Again, the next two I don't have pictures, or I don't have physically, but you'll see the pictures of. And then I do have the last pair with me. So the next project that I finished was on November 29th. And this is a pair of vanilla socks that I knit for a dear friend. I knit these in KnitandGrace sock in the color gray brown marl. It is one of my favorite KnitandGrace sock colors. Absolutely love it. I definitely need to find some more knitworthy men in my life so I can knit a couple more of these socks. I made it using my regular kind of vanilla sock recipe, which I have outlined in the project page, but this is a 64 stitch sock. I knit my socks on US 1 or 2.25 millimeter needles, and I knit these up in a flat rib. So whenever I am knitting for others, I do tend to like knitting a flat rib unless I know their foot, just because then that means I'm not going to have to worry about, you know, the sock fitting them or not. Also use my favorite just slip stitch reinforced heel, and I absolutely love how they turned out. They have just been put in the mail. They were meant to be put in the mail in December, and they have just been put in the mail today. So quite a bit late, but I'm hoping that the recipient will love their socks. And so with that, I have another pair of socks that I have gifted, and therefore I have pictures on, or I will have pictures up here. And for this particular pair of socks, there's actually a little bit of a backstory. So these socks are the Broken Rib socks by Hannah Levaniemi. That's what I'm going with. And these were finished on December 27th. I actually finished these while I was on my Christmas trip to Santa Fe this year. I went to Arizona for Christmas this year. And yeah, so I finished these on the Christmas trip. And I knit these 64 stitches. So the Broken Rib socks, they are a free pattern, so the pattern will be linked and all of that, but it's more of a recipe than a pattern. So it assumes that you already kind of have your own recipe, and then the designer is just walking you through how to get the broken rib sort of design. These are also really great for scrappy projects, which is exactly what I did with these. So again, I did a 64 stitch sock on US 1s. For these, I use KnitandGrace socks ivory for my main color. And then the contrast color is the variegated color of Katia Danubio's sock in the color 300. And so you may recall this as yarn that I picked up in Brussels in 2022 on my trip there. And I had knit myself a pair of socks, and then I still had about 30 grams left over. And so I decided to knit another pair of socks, and these have now been gifted to my mom. And so the little story here is that for 2025, I have actually set out to knit my mom a pair of socks every month. Now, I will caveat that with saying that it might not be every month. I actually have missed now March. But she will, by the end of the year, have gotten 12 pairs of socks. And the reason for this is, and you know, trigger warning about how I wash my socks. This is very controversial, I know. I had knit my mom 2 pairs of socks when I, not first started knitting, but like back in like 2012, 2013-ish. And she loved them. They were great, but she never wore them. And so then I stopped knitting her socks because I was like, well, she's not wearing her socks, so I'm not going to make her socks. And then now since moving back home, one day I happened to have been doing laundry. Excuse me. Sorry about that. So one day I happened to have been doing laundry, and my mom saw that I had all of my hand knit socks hanging up on my clothes horse. And I'll put a picture in here of how I typically do that. And she was like, oh, you wash your socks in the laundry? And I was like, yeah, I wash my socks in the laundry. She's like, you can wash the socks in the laundry? And I'm like, yeah, you can wash the socks in the laundry. And so what I do, again, controversial, and I know that technically you should not be using, you know, commercial detergent on your socks because of the animal protein breaking down enzymes and all of that jazz. So do as you should do, not as how I do. Like, don't take the, like, what I do is what I do. But I when I'm gonna do my darks load, which is a cold load always, so I only do them cold, I put my socks in a laundry bag, you know, that you would normally put your delicates in, and I throw it in with my darks load. So depending on how many socks, you know, I usually put maybe like 4 pairs to a bag. I have pretty big bags, but I want them to be able to like move around and not like get jumbled up in there because then I don't want them to felt. And then also because they're in the bag, then it's easy for me to just take the bag out and not accidentally put them in the dryer. And so then I put my clothes in the dryer and then I hang up the socks on my clothes horse and then they dry and then that's it. That's how I wash my socks. And yeah, because I pretty much wear hand knit socks every day, for the most part. There's usually like a time frame in like the springish where I won't, because maybe I'm like wearing more like sandals or like whatever, but like I wear my hand knit socks even in the summer, especially because I do a lot of hiking, so I only wear my hand knit socks hiking. So I wear them year round. I always have them going. And so since my mom saw me do that, I noticed all of a sudden over the winter that she was wearing her socks nonstop. And I'm like, she's wearing her socks. I've literally never seen her wear her socks. I knit these socks in 2012. We are now in 2024. She's wearing her socks. And so then she was like, you know, she was like, yeah, I've been washing them. I wear them a couple of days and then I wash them. And I'm like, yeah, that's exactly what I do. So I've decided that now, since my mom is wearing her socks and she's wearing her socks nonstop, and she actually made a comment to me about how much she loves wearing her socks, with her cloud slippers specifically, that this year I'm going to knit her socks. And yeah, it's kind of also a little bit selfish because I have way too much sock yarn in my stash, and so I'm really excited. So these were her January socks. She's since gotten her February socks, which you guys will see in the next episode. And I still haven't figured out which socks I'm making her for March. But essentially, she'll get, at the end of the year, 12 socks. So it might be like that I knit 2 in a month or whatever it might be, but that is the goal for the year. So that is a very long-winded story for my mom's pair of broken rib socks. Okay, we're nearing the end now and at a pretty reasonable pace, I think. So the next 2 projects I finished in January of this year. So these are the last 2 projects. And the next ones are a pair of socks, and holy moly, there is a lot of cat hair in these. I literally just pulled them out of the wash. So I don't know why there's so much cat hair in this. I don't know. Maybe the cat, I think the cat was probably rolling around in my laundry. But these literally just got washed yesterday because I was wearing them. So now they're shrunk back to normal size. Because if you had seen these a couple of days ago, they would not have been this size. So actually, probably should put them on sock blockers, but yeah. So for my socks, what I do is I do block them the first time just to have the stitches relax, just to make sure that my ends that I weave in will relax and not like pop out through the socks. But then after, and then also obviously for pictures. So I will insert the pictures of what they look like nice and pretty and blocked. But then after the first time that I block them, I don't block them again. I just throw them in the wash, and like I mentioned, I just hang them on my clothes horse, just like this. And then when I store them as a pair like this in my hand knit sock drawer. I have a drawer just for my hand knit socks. And so these socks, again, they're my vanilla sock pattern, but I knit these socks in Patent Croy socks in the color Mid-Century Stripe, and I did the contrast heel and toe in the color Ivory. And I am so obsessed with these socks. How stinking cute are they? Oh my god. So I had placed an order in November, Black Friday, from Yarn Inspirations for the Patton's Croy sock, the gray brown marl that I showed you in the episode a little bit ago. And so I figured, well, if I'm going to buy the yarn, I want to obviously make it worth the shipping. So I bought a bunch of colors. So I had bought this color, I had bought another color, another 2 colors that you guys are actually going to see in the next episode. And then I think I have 1 more color left. And I had been looking at this color. I want to say Bethany of Well Love Knits had knit a pair of socks in this color. But I had been ogling this color for a while, and I was just, you know, you couldn't get it in like Joanna or Michaels. And so since I was placing an order directly from Yarn Inspirations, I figured I was going to get the color. And I am so obsessed. I absolutely love them. They're probably now one of my top favorite pairs of socks. And yeah, so again, just my vanilla sock recipe, 64 stitches on US 1.5 or US 1 needles, which is 2.25 millimeter needles. And for this pair, I did the flat rib with a reinforced heel. So actually this, you can kind of see now what I was talking about for the other socks. So you can see, so flat rib is when you knit 3 and then purl 1. So when it's flat, it looks flat. When you stretch it out, you can see that it's ribbed. And then this is the reinforced heel. So yeah, so this is kind of my favorite way to make socks. The Patton's Croy is a bit thicker of a sock yarn. So when I knit myself Patton's Croy socks, I do flat rib just so that they fit me better. Because otherwise they'd probably be too big. I'd probably have to go down to like 60 stitches. So that's why I do the flat rib for myself sometimes. But I absolutely love them because they're really cozy and they're really thick. And I finished those on January 5th. Okay. So the last project that I have to show you all, I unfortunately have not taken FO pictures of, but I'm actually sitting in front of it. And it is the Woodland Ripple blanket by Lucy of Attic 24. And if you have been a longtime follower of the channel, you will have seen this blanket already. And I finally finished it. I should probably take FO pictures, but this is what it looks like. So let's see, starting from there. I will eventually take FO pictures of this. I just haven't gotten around to it. And I am so obsessed. I will say, and probably the reason I haven't gotten around to taking FO pictures is because I was not a good note taker. I kind of just went with it. So I crocheted this up on a size E hook, which is a 3.5 millimeter crochet hook. And what I did was I kind of, when I looked at the pattern, I did a little bit of a gauge swatch and I figured out my stitch count. And then I figured out how wide I wanted to make the blanket. And then I cast on and then I just crocheted from there. And so the yarn for this is from Sweet Sparrow Yarns, and it is 3 years worth of advents. So part of the reason I wanted to finish it after this year is because I'm like, I can't put, this is already like $600 worth of yarn, but also it did actually just reach a really good size. So here we go. So when I started this is the 2022 Advent, which ends with this, where's my stitch marker? Right there. So I have this little dragonfly in there. So it ends on this variegated white stripe. And so what I did was I just did one stripe of each color, which is essentially like one back and forth. And then 2023 ended at this green color right here. So from this lavender color all the way to this green color. And then 2024 started from this minty green color all the way to the end. And so, yeah, I absolutely love this. It is a lap blanket size. I have to take final measurements of it. I haven't blocked it. I don't know that I'm going to block it, but I absolutely love it. One thing that I will say is I think I had originally intended this to be a kind of like couch blanket because, you know, it's a lap blanket. However, I have cats. And this is $600 worth of yarn. So it's become my knitting / reading / podcasting chair blanket. And so it's actually been really good. I sit in this chair where it's normally set up in the corner of doom. If you all have been around for a while, you know the corner I'm talking about. So this chair is set up in that corner, which I can see, it's across the room from me. And I have kind of like a TV tray set up usually there, and it's where I do a lot of my readings. So for school, also where I sit to have therapy session every week. So this chair, you know, it sees a lot of stuff. It sees a lot of psychology actually, because I'm getting a psych degree. But yeah, so I actually sit quite a bit in this chair, and also like if I have like FaceTime dates with friends and things like that, I'll sit in this chair and like set up my laptop on the tray. So I do quite a bit of sitting in this chair, so it's been nice to have it to just put over my lap, and then I'm not worried about the cats getting to it. And then with that, I actually have started another blanket, and maybe this one won't take me 3 years, but you will have to learn more about that one in next month's episode when I start introducing whips again. Okay, so typically, like I mentioned, this would be the part of the episode where we show whips, but there will be no whips until May. Then I would show acquisitions. I will show acquisitions for Rhinebeck. So I'll show you all my Rhinebeck haul in next time's video. So it's going to be part 2 in 2 weeks. Come back for the Rhinebeck haul. If you want to see my Nash Yarn Fest haul, I will point you to my Nash Yarn Fest video. And then other than that, any other yarn that I've picked up along the way, I will mention as I mention the projects. If they're yarns that you all have not seen me purchase in the past. So that's pretty much that. In terms of April knitting plans, yeah, I am deep in my second semester of school. So, I don't really make knitting plans these days. I'm going off of vibes. I'm seeing where the vibes are taking me. They're tending to get a little chaotic because I am now embroiled in a group of friends that are just egging me on all the time, and so my cast-on-itis is real. But yeah, so I have no real solid plans. Probably for the next 3 years, I'm not gonna really be holding myself to a lot of stuff, just because, you know, school comes first. I did just finish a test knit, and I do have a sample knit coming up in May. So that's kind of my plan for April. For April, I'm hoping to, there's going to be one cast on, which I'm going to talk about in a second. But I'm hoping to really finish or make a big dent in some of my active whips and get them off the needles and not really start anything else, because I know that I have a sample coming the first week in May. And so what I will be starting this month is actually a relax tee by Amy Sure Makes. And so Amy Sure Makes is celebrating their sort of design and shop anniversary once again with a make along. And I'll link you to the make along information in the description down below. But the make along is running from April 4th all the way until June 27th. So it's about 12 weeks. There will be prizes that are shared every 4 weeks, and then there is a grand prize at the end. You can enter in as an individual, or you can enter in as a group to the make along, and it's multi-craftual, which is really great. So you can knit, you can crochet, you can weave, you can spin. Now that they have their web shop open, they do sell fiber, they sell looms, so you can weave if you bought a loom from them. So anything that you have that you have purchased through ASM. So it can be an ASM pattern or ASM or yarn that you have purchased through ASM, or using a loom or a spindle that you have purchased through them as well. So again, the details will be linked below so you can check that out. And I will be starting a project for the make along. That will be the relax tee. So I'm knitting the relax tee, which just released right before the make along started. So it just released a week or two ago, I want to say. And I have decided to be virtuous and do a little stash diving and pull out some linen quill that I've had in my stash, I want to say since November of 23. Yes, because I did Black Friday sale in 2023. So I've had this in stash since November of 2023. So this is Pearl Soho Linen Quill, which is 50% Highland wool, 35% alpaca, 15% linen. And this color is called Rosewood Pink. And it is a fingering weight yarn. It has this beautiful heather to the yarn that comes about from the uneven dye uptake of the various fibers that are in it. And it's just a really, really lovely yarn. And yeah, I have quite a bit of this in stash because I had intended to make another project where I was going to hold this double. So I have way more than I need. But I'm finally going to make something with the stashed yarn. So yeah, so I will be making the relaxed tee. I will be making the short sleeve version in that Pearl Soho linen quill. And I might have a little bit of a spring knitting plan video for you all next week. Wink, wink, if you want to come back and check on that and place bets on how many projects I actually finish. Right? I just said that I'm not making plans, and then I'm putting out a plans video. But we just go with it. We just go with it. Again, we're just running on vibes. We're running on vibes. Yeah, grad school has been very tough this semester. So it's kind of, if you feel the chaotic energy, so do I. It's here to stay. And that's all I have to say about that. So again, the other portion of the video that I would normally talk about is the numbers. I'll actually put that in next time's video as well. So next time you will get the rest of my FOs, so from February to March, and you'll get acquisitions from Rhinebeck, and you will get my numbers, which are atrocious. But, we are, we keep it honest. We let you know when we buy yarn, and we let you know when we're not knitting yarn. And it is what it is. So that is all I have for you all today. If you've stuck around this long, thank you. You're awesome. And yeah, sorry, Kendra, it's over 30 minutes. I'm sure you probably split this up in half or something. But I think I should probably stop talking now. I'm getting delirious. I need to have breakfast. I need to have coffee. I need to do something. But again, see you back in 2 weeks for the rest of the FOs. See you next week for spring plans. And who knows? I might have some other videos up my sleeve. I still owe you all a life update, so that's going to be a video in and of itself as well. And I think I'm going to leave you all here. If you have made it this far and enjoy the video, please do all the things like subscribe, comment, let me know as always what you have been working on while you've been watching the video. And until next time, be sure to take care of yourselves, your loved ones, and each other. I'll see you next time. Bye.